All right, what's going on, guys? Graham G. and Matthews here, BleacherReport.com. Heading into the Royal Rumble, we're talking to one of the stars of the Royal Rumble, Mr. Royal Rumble himself, Kofi
Oh
Kingston. Kofi,
boy.
what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey man, I appreciate the accolade, Mr. Royal Rumble, but I feel like I gotta win one before I can officially take that name. Shawn Michaels, they call him Mr. WrestleMania. He won several matches at WrestleMania. You can't. I don't know. I just feel like a fraud if you call me Miss. If I call myself Mr. Royal Rumble and I haven't even made the final four. So we're gonna get there. Hopefully one day we'll be able to officially give myself that moniker.
Well, my logic is that everyone calls Shelton Benjamin Mr. Money in the Bank, as they should. He's never
Oh,
won the match, so I don't know. I feel like it's equivalent to that.
okay. Okay. I see that. I see that. I see that analogy. And since it's like, Shelton's 20-year anniversary time,
Yep.
I'll refrain from making any comment. That my first was to like get a jab in there, get a jab in there at Shelton, as brothers do. But no, I'll let it slide.
Well, talk about where you are right now, Kofi. You're on site. I love the background. Talk a little about what you got going on as
Hey,
one half of the
thanks.
NXT Tag Team Champions.
Skirt. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. What is he doing with this NXT Championship title on his lap with this great backdrop? So I'll just move my camera around here because see, I'm in the back of my pickup truck. You see that
Nice,
there?
nice.
I got a lawn chair here. My truck is over here. I literally, so my, there was a nationwide like ground delay. They stopped all the planes because the computer system went down, and I was crazy delayed, like 3 hours. So I'm literally getting off the plane right now. I drove about 15 minutes away from the airport so there wouldn't be any noise, and found a parking lot that's kind of close to where I'm going to be picking up my kids in a couple
Mhm.
hours, and just parked here, set up shop, and we're gonna do some interviews. So this is the nature of the beast. You know what I mean? You got to work with the scraps that you're given and work with what you got.
It's crazy, man. You are Mr. WWE in many ways, having been in the main roster for, I mean, we've talked about this before and other times I've talked to you, but 15 years this month. 15 years this month. You talk about 20 years of Shelton Benjamin, everyone else, 20 years, Cena last year, 15 years coming up
Oh
on
God.
January 22nd, and you're busier than ever. I mean, you're doing the SmackDown stuff still. You're on NXT. You got travel
Yeah.
woes. Obviously, that stuff never goes away. Talking about being busier than ever right now in the schedule you're currently working with, heading into the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, that is the nature of the beast, man. Like, you kind of get used to it. I feel like if this was early in my career, I might have been flustered or whatever. I was actually texting Adam Hopkins, who puts all these interviews for us together, and I was in the air because I fell asleep on the plane. I'm like, oh man, what time is it? Well, are we in East Coast time? Are we in Central time? And I was like, so I had some reception, so I texted. I'm like, yeah, I'm in the air. I should be there by 12:30 or whatever. Push everything back.
Yeah.
It's just like you get used to adapting in WWE. If there's anything that you would assume about WWE that you would need to know that is synonymous with WWE is the unpredictability, as we know with what's been going on over the past like 48 hours or so, right? Like you have this whole like year 2 years in general has been so incredibly unpredictable between
Yeah.
the pandemic and Vince stepping down and Vince coming back, which is awesome that he's back, and just it's a level of unpredictability. That's the way like we live by that. We expect things to go left, go sideways, and we have to figure out a way to kind of like keep them going. So it's only appropriate that as deep as I am into my career, it hasn't gotten any less chaotic, and that's a great thing. That's really what makes WWE so special, is that from what happens on screen and off screen, you just never know what's going to happen. So here we are, right, trying to figure
Yeah.
it all out.
Like you said, it's the nature of the beast. And you talk about unpredictability. I don't think anyone was ever expecting to see you on NXT. I mean, obviously Woods was there
Yeah.
at one point 10 years ago when it first started, but you never been on NXT as a member of the roster. We're seeing you weekly there now. Talk a little bit about that process. First of all, debuting on Tuesdays, a part of ECW. 15 years later, you're back on Tuesdays with a different brand. A lot changes, I guess. More things change, more they stay the same. But talk about going to
Yeah.
NXT. Like, I know Sean has talked openly about like wanting some people from the main roster. He brings you in. Was that an idea from you guys knowing, all right, we've kind of done all that we can on Raw and SmackDown for now? You're still on SmackDown, obviously, but was that a thought from you and Woods as well? Like, hey, maybe let's go test the waters over there? Or was that entirely an idea from Sean or elsewhere in WWE?
Yeah, I mean, we'd always like we keep our eyes on like a lot of the tag teams, especially Pretty Deadly. We've been watching for a long time when they were in
Yeah.
NXT UK. So there's always been the desire to like want to mix it up with these guys, especially like the more you get into your career, the more you feel the responsibility to kind of like give back, you know? But for this in particular, we were just called in the talent relations. They were like, Sean has a special request. Shawn Michaels, he needs you. He's requesting you guys at NXT. And when Sean calls, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
what do you say? You know, it's like this is a great opportunity, obviously, to be down there. But like the hero of my wrestling childhood is like asking me to be a part of this experience. Of course, I'm gonna do it. You know what I mean? Like, so for that reason and several others, it was a no brainer. You know, just to be able to go down there and honestly like to feel that energy. I haven't felt that in a long time. You know, we're so far removed from that process where people are trying to figure their characters out, or they're trying to figure themselves out and, you know, learn how to talk on the mic. And they're just in such an incubation, like green stage. It's a beautiful thing because you know that these guys are like the future of the industry. So to see them at this infancy stage is like, man, I can't wait to see what you guys are going to be when it's all said and done. And particularly like Pretty Deadly, we've got the chance to mix it up with over the past few weeks. We had them on the live events last week, and you know, I'll never tell them this to their face, but I love them. You know, I love their characters. I love their confidence, and I'm really excited to see like where they end up because they're so far ahead of the game in terms of like what they know and what they feel and their instincts, and mainly character stuff. Like that's the key, to find a character that is identifiable with the people, and not necessarily that like people want to go out and wear like you know, do you even call that a crop top? Like it's like
It's
the next
something,
level,
yeah.
just like I don't even know how to describe it. But even like people that you would hate, you know what I'm saying? Like that draw emotion out of you. And these guys, like, you know, people see them walk out, they don't even say a word, and they're automatically getting booed. So
Yeah.
like that is a huge step in the right direction. So it's just been a real joy to mix it up with some of these young guys down in NXT. I think the future is very bright for WWE, 100%.
Yeah, you talk about like they walk out there and just get those boos immediately. Very reminiscent of or like late 2014, early 2015 New Day. Like very reminiscent
Yeah,
in that ways, which is why you guys work so well, not only in the
yeah,
ring, but in the segments too. I mean, some of the stuff you guys have done in the last month has been incredibly entertaining. We're looking forward to seeing more of that. But you talk about giving back before we get into the Rumble stuff. I know you actually have a project going on right now in Ghana with your mother, right? With a GoFundMe you guys have
yeah.
set up. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's so my mom and I have set up the Click for Quality Education Foundation, and Click stands for Computer Lab and Integrated Centers of Knowledge. And essentially, these are computer labs and libraries that we're providing for junior high school students in Ghana. So I think in the United States and all over the world, we are very like I don't want to say spoiled, but we don't really. There's a lot of things that we can't imagine like living without. You know, a
Absolutely,
lot
yeah.
of kids these days have cell phones. I can pull up my cell phone right now and look up any kind of information that I wanted to, you know, and at the click of a button, you know. In Ghana, there are kids who are high school students who have never been to a library. You know, they've never been to, you know, or even used a computer. When the teachers are teaching kids about computers, they're using like rocks and dirt and sand and drawing like keyboards in the ground. And how can you get a real understanding of what an actual computer is, let alone like how to use one, you know? So my mom and I, you know, want to just provide kids with just a fair shot. You know what I mean? Like a lot of them have to take these standardized tests. You're held to the same standard as people who have been born and raised with computers, and you're expected to do just as well. But you just don't have the equal footing. So we're trying to give them that equal footing by providing these computer labs and libraries for them, just so they can, you know, reap the benefits of education that we still have all over the world.
That's awesome, man. That's a great cause, and people got to check it out. I mean, is there any like link that people can visit to help and help
Yeah,
donate and stuff like that?
for sure. Yeah, we have a GoFundMe going on right now. If you just look up at Click FQE at GoFundMe or www.gofundme.com/clickfqe. It'll take you to the donation page, because even though we've done like a lot of work, we still do have a lot left to do. The computers are something that we still actually need, and we're trying to fundraise towards. We had a couple of prospects that were potentially going to provide the computers. Those have all fallen through. So we're kind of depending on the kindness of others and the generosity of others to keep it going and to allow us to finish the project because we want to do many of them. This is the first of what will hopefully be many. But yeah, like I said, if you go to GoFundMe.com/clickFQE, you can donate. And if you can't donate, that's fine too. If you can just spread the word, that'd be great. On all social media platforms, it's just @clickFQE on Twitter, on Instagram, if you want to stay up to date with all the latest goings on. But we're really excited about it, and we're really happy to be able to do something special for these children.
That's awesome, man. Like you said, keeping busy, not only with the stuff that we see on screen, but this sort of stuff as well that we don't hear nearly enough about. I mean, people need to know more about this sort of stuff, so it's great stuff. But like we said, Royal Rumble coming up very quickly at the end of the month. Like I said, a lot of association between you and the Rumble. Last year marked 10 years since we started seeing those Kofi Kingston illustrious saves and stuff like that. I know you've talked a lot about it in the past, but with that handstand from 2012, going back to the very beginning, obviously that was the beginning of it. I'm sure you didn't know at that point it would start 10 years of saves and whatnot, but for that handstand, it's still one of the most impressive ones you've pulled off yet. Can you talk about, like, was that the culmination of everything, like all the work that you put into the gym and like training for something like that? Like, how does something like that happen?
So that just I think it was either that day or even like I know it was like less than a week that I had the idea to even do it because I realized so John Morrison was the guy who got knocked off the apron and he Spider-Maned all the way to the barricade and then like ran over and then jumped over back to the ring. And when the next Rumble he was gone, he wasn't with the company anymore. So I'm like, oh, who can fill that void? You know what I mean? Let me go ahead and slide up in there. And the handstand just like came about at that moment. And at the time, I hadn't done a handstand in maybe like a decade.
Wow.
So if you notice, most people when they do like a handstand, they walk the other way. I couldn't walk the other way. So if you watch it, you see me kind of like walking backwards with it. It was the only way that I could do it. So I'm like, okay, this might work if I get the chance to do it. And yeah, it's just like when people were going nuts for it, I was like, okay, let's see what we can do the next year. And then, like you said, man, even all the way up until like last year, going for it and like not being able to do it. You know what I mean? I'm like, so I think it's cool. It's a cool like thread and a story that people expect to see. But I've always taken the mentality of like either something will come to me or it won't, or I'll make it or I won't. Like last year,
yeah.
But it's pretty cool to be in that spotlight where people are looking to me to bring something unique to a situation and a pay-per-view that has been around for like what 30 years? Is it like
35
years now?
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Like, so yeah, anytime you can be a staple in WWE for any reason, like that's a great thing. It's an impressive thing because there's so much talent on the roster and there has been a lot of talent for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about these spots too and coming up with them and having it become like a tradition at the pay-per-view, being synonymous with the pay-per-view at this point. Every year people look forward to what you're going to do in the match. But with that being said, as far as like you talk about each one that you've pulled off year after year, there's a lot of people that have also helped in a lot of these spots. Obviously, you've been responsible for 99% of them, but Rusev one year, Tenzai another, obviously New Day. Yeah. So just talk about that and like, who do you think has helped, and not only just coming up with the spots themselves, but just obviously that's a lot of it is you, but and just helping you put them together and helping you execute them as smoothly as you have.
Well, I always give credit to everybody involved in the situation. So it's very similar to like WWE as a whole, right? Like we as superstars get all the credit because we're on the mic, we're in front of the cameras, we're in the matches, but none of that happens unless the ring crew comes in and they put the rings together, the lighting comes in, and the production crew and the people who are getting all the backstages together. Like it is so much that has to come together in order for this one show to kick off, let alone like having shows run multiple times a week all throughout the year. So similarly for the Royal Rumble, like the people who were involved in that in the spot are like I give them all the credit in the world. Like if Tenzai falls down, like I fall down too. If Rusev falls down, if the Rosebuds drop me, you know what I'm saying? Like if Miz doesn't push my feet enough or he pushes them too far, like so there's a lot that goes into it. As far as coming up with them, like my guy who I always used to bounce stuff off of was Hornswoggle. You know, we always used to room together. We used to travel together in the hotel room. Like, for example, the pogo stick one, he was like, well, what are you going to come up with? I'm like, dude, I don't know. What are you going to come up with? What are you going to get, like a pogo stick and hop to the ring? Oh, ha, ha, ha. And I'm like, huh, let me go over here. So I got out from under the covers, you know what I'm saying? I go over to like the chair in the room and I'm like, oh, if I can lock it in, let's see if we can do
Yeah.
this tomorrow at TV. And sure enough, like now we have another deal. So yeah, Hornswoggle's always been the guy, but now it's weird because everybody like who like people come to me with suggestions. Hey, can you do this? You should do this. Ooh, ooh, I don't even have to like think about it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely a lot of credit to all the people involved in the execution because without them, like it just it just doesn't happen, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's all good, man.
You mentioned that you practiced the pogo stick one at TV right before the Rumble. Is that like a recurring case with all of them or just some of them? Some of them I know you can't, it's a one-time thing and then you got to do it. But how many of these do you practice
Yeah,
ahead of time?
yeah, I don't know. I don't recall. I mean, I don't. You can't really like practice it to the full extent
Sure. Yeah.
because when you have the crowd involved and everything is live, like it's a lot different.
Yeah.
But I with the pogo stick one, I wanted to see if it was even possible to like hang on to a chair or like see if that would work. The handstand, I want to see if I could actually still do a handstand. Yeah, but I mean everything else is just like you just hope that it goes the way that you plan, right?
Yeah.
And again, like if it does, it does. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. And you just walk to the back like everybody else. So it's all good, man.
And I like the fact that in the 2020 Rumble, we didn't really see like a cool like save spot. You came in, you went right after Brock. You guys had that history. It
Yeah.
wasn't like, it was a different tone. Was that a conscious decision on your part or Vince's or anyone else's going into that Rumble?
No, no. I mean, I think the story that we wanted to tell there. If you recall, I think Brock was in like that first half, right?
Yeah.
Like just throwing everybody out. So I think that was really where the focus was.
Hmm.
I had something on tap, but it just didn't. The situation didn't, like call for it.
Yeah.
So above all else, you know what I mean? Like I know there's an element of like a lot of the old school vets will come in and tell you, well, you got to be selfish. You got to come in. You got to step on toes. And there's an element of that, like taking time for yourself when the time is right. But we want to make sure that the crowd gets the best story possible, And if that involves you like having to withdraw something that you wanted to do, like you make that sacrifice for the crowd, you know. I at least I do. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that's always been the mentality is that like you work for the match. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So but that to me was like a cool enough moment because a lot of people wanted to see, like, I never got a rematch against Brock,
Yeah.
and a lot of people are still mad about that. But to be able to like have that face to face, I'm like, this is great, this is perfect. And everybody who was involved in that actually had an issue with Brock, right? So
Yep.
myself, he was in there,
I think it was Rey
Rey
Mysterio, right?
Mysterio.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Brock had like messed up Dominic like
Yep.
the week before or something. So it was a great little like storytelling. Like
Hmm.
all of us who had this issue with this monster, we're all gonna come together from all the different villages and we're gonna go after
Yeah.
the mythical monster. And we failed, but it was okay because we tried. You know what I mean? Like everybody understood what was going on, man. So I thought it was just a cool way again to stand out in the Royal Rumble by using like the what we already had in terms of the storyline that was set
Yeah.
in all those interactions with all of the people involved in the ring at that time.
Last question for you, Kofi. You mentioned this a moment ago, but are there any of the Rumble saves that you either couldn't do or that you wanted to do or that got axed or whatever that you can share? But maybe you might be saving them for another time, so you might not be able to. I understand.
Yeah, I might have to wait until my career is all said and done,
Sure.
to where I literally have no there will be no way that I can you know
Pull any of
be
these off.
involved in the
Yeah.
Royal Rumble matches because as you can imagine, it gets to be pretty difficult and few and far between. You have so many incredible athletes. I mean, Casey Catanzaro, when they did the Women's Rumble a couple years ago,
Yeah.
she was amazing. Even last night, Sol Ruka, right? In NXT, like
Yeah.
their battle royal. She's out there. She is such an incredible athlete. Like the things that she can do. So this is what I'm talking about when I say like the future is bright with
Yeah.
NXT. Like she hasn't been in the industry for a very long time, but you can tell like once she starts to put everything together and she's able to combine that incredible like top tier athleticism with like story, she's gonna be amazing. She's gonna be so awesome. Like you just so watching her last night do her thing, she's out there doing her handstand the right way. to the point, oh, let me show out a little bit. Oh, I'll put one foot down, I'll put it back up. I walk halfway around the world to get back in. Like, the athletes are just so incredible. So all that to say, like, I can't really divulge what I'm going to do or what I'm thinking about doing, because I might end up using it in some way, shape, or form before it's all said and done. So we'll have to just keep watching and see what happens.
Exactly. We're going to have to look forward. You were the first person to declare for this year's men's Royal Rumble match. So we're obviously going to see in the match. You're confirmed. You're good to go. We're looking forward to that. You're Mr. Like I said, Kofi, Mr. Royal Rumble, Mr. WWE in many ways for the last 15 years. Congrats on that, man. That is awesome. You're always doing interviews around this time of year. 2 years ago, last year, I talked to you in Springfield before the house show last year. You buried me when we were doing the backstage interview when I was on the incline. And I still,
I know what you were trying to do. People try to do it all the time. It's a height focused business. Well, I can't train you how to be 6'8". So we have people who don't know, go back and watch the interview. But homeboy tried to stand up on the incline of the hill, the tall part of the hill, so he could look at the top of my head and look over me. And I said, "Oh no, I know what you're doing." So I walked around and I made sure that I was the tall one in the interview. You know what I mean? And you were looking up at me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I had to call you out on that. Yeah.
I was guilty. You're right, Kofi. Don't forget. I appreciate it. You're always awesome. One more time, GoFundMe.com/click FQE. Is that the correct link?
That's correct.
Perfect. People could check it out, Kofi. Everything you got going on. I appreciate the time. You're always awesome. Congrats again, and best of luck in the Rumble, man. I appreciate it.
Right on, man. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Always a
Kofi.
pleasure
Take
to talk
care.
to you.